Hello everyone, and today, before we even get into the craziness that is the state of the game that is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I just want to highlight the massive amount of support that we've received across the last number of hours on that last video. We jumped from 88 subscribers all the way up to 110 at the time of recording. I said on that video, let's do 100 by the end of the week. You guys absolutely killed it in less than 24 hours. I was utterly blown away when I logged in to check this morning, so thank you so much for the support. And again, anyone new watching, if you haven't subscribed and you do like what you see, again, the button's there. It doesn't cost you anything. You can join our growing community now at this point. Again, if there's anyone there who's subscribing now and they want to get in and chat to me personally or see if they want to share ideas, there is the Discord. Again, the link is in the description of every video. Every video has a new link. So by all means, you can jump in and you can contact me directly. I'll get in there a few times a day. But yeah, just thank you so much for the support, and let's keep that up. Let's see if we can get 150 by the end of the week, which is ambitious, but we'll give it a try. So stepping away from that then, what we're going to be talking about today is a Adventure Rose Tenyi deck. As you can see on your screen, this is but one iteration of, I would say, the 6, 8, 9 different variations I've been testing over the last... I've been playing this probably for about 8 or 9 hours straight. Basically, the idea is we're trying to test out the ceiling that the new Adventure Engine brings to the deck. So what is the Adventure Engine? The Adventure Engine consists of a number of cards. Let me just narrow it all down here. We're going to remove all of this here. Spoilers. So the Adventure Engine is this. So this is the Adventure Engine, right? So you've got 2 Water Enchantress. You've got 2 Rite of Aramisair. You've got 1 Fateful Adventure, 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon. You have the Wandering Griffin Rider, and then I would say Foolish Burial is also technically part of the engine because it sends your Water Enchantress. So how does it all work? So it's very straightforward in how it's actually implemented. You will have Water Enchantress. Water Enchantress can banish itself from your hand or your graveyard to grab your Rite of Aramisair. So Foolish Burial can send it to the graveyard so you can activate its effect from there as well. So Water Enchantress is usually where it starts. Water Enchantress grabs your Rite. Rite will summon out an Adventure token to your field, 2k attack and defense, level 4 token. And it will also play Fateful Adventure to your field. So this puts the token on your field. Fateful Adventure has a few effects. Whenever a monster is summoned, you get to add the Dracoback to your hand. And at any point you can discard a card to search your deck for a monster that lists an adventure token in its description. So what you'll normally do is you'll add the Dracoback to your hand, then you will use Fateful Adventure to discard the Dracoback to search for your Griffin Rider. Now, whenever your Dracoback is discarded, it can equip itself from the graveyard onto an adventure token. So you don't necessarily lose any card advantage. So what does the Griffin do then? So the Griffin, if you control no monsters or if you control an adventure token, you can then special summon this guy out to the field. So long as you control an adventure token, he is an Omni Negate. So that's generally how the engine works. So you essentially, without using your normal summon, because these cards lock you out of using your the effects of a normal summoned monster, you can only use the effects of special summoned monsters. So before even using your normal summon, you have on your field a level 7 Omni Negate and a token. So you have 2 monsters on your board before using your normal summon, and the Griffin Rider is an Omni Negate, so it can stop the likes of the Nibiru, Max C, anything like that, although if they had Max C they would have used it prior. But yeah, so this adds a good amount of power and consistency to any deck that you can add it into, and you can add it into any deck that doesn't really use its normal summon. So we're using it in a cool little Tenyi Rose type spam deck, sort of similar to what we were playing in a video a few days ago. So generally what are we doing? We're going to include some of our Tenyi monsters. So the Tenyi package is generally how you would get started here. So I believe I was running this particular ratio of Tenyis. You can adjust that, modify that all you want. It's just the level 7s are quite important. These guys, we've covered these guys time and time again. Then we would have the Rose Dragon engine, which again we had in our last video, but I'll describe it in detail again at the end. We were playing the Denglong engine, so we had this guy and the Chiwen, which was down here, as well as Ataya. So we had the Denglong engine going on. We had then Protos and Emergence to be searched off of the Grandmaster. So there's a whole load of things happening in this deck. It is a crazy, crazy, crazy deck. So much happening. Is this the best way of building it? Let me get the actual deck list back up on screen. Is this the best way to play the deck? Probably not. I've been having sort of like on and off win streaks, losing streaks, and the meta at the minute is crazy. A powerful option you may want to consider maybe, you know, things like Lightning Storm to help deal with Lawandaries, which I think is probably better. Either way, we're not going to go over a detailed profile right now. This is just sort of a general overview and the description of the adventure engine. So at the end of it, we'll come back around and describe some of the key plays, the combos and such. But for now, we've got a few really cool games lined up. So let's get into game number 1. Alright, let's get into it here with game number 1. Not the greatest of hands looking at it. We did draw into the Faithful Adventure. Our opponent's going to go for Maxi here. Luckily, we do have Ash. We are planning on summoning a few times here. This probably isn't going to be the best showing of the core combo. I believe in this version of it, we were playing the Dagda Scythelock. I played a whole bunch of different versions of this deck, so don't look at this as like a guide to the Brave Engine. This is more going to be a just a showing of the sort of learning process, getting it. So we go to use Faithful Adventure here. Unfortunately, we do get negated. We'll summon out a Shuna. Shuna will then allow the Faithful Adventure, will grab us the Draco back. We're going to use this and the O-Lion to go into Crystron Hulk. We did that with the O-Lion because we knew it would grab us a token, and the Hulk then would also grab us a monster. So that means we have 2 monsters with different names on board, which means we can summon out Dagda. Now Dagda, whenever we will activate the Draco back and equip it to Dagda, just so we can force Dagda's effect to activate. When another card in your field is activated, you get to grab an artifact from the deck and set it face down. So we're going to grab Safe, and then we're going to end our turn. So this is a pretty solid sort of setup. Even after we got negated and didn't draw the greatest of hands, this is still really strong. Our opponent is going to go for Foolish Burial here. We're going to ask that because he doesn't have much in his hands. We thought, you know, that might actually really cripple him here. He goes for Called by the Grave, then hitting the Ash, so that Foolish Burial is in fact going to resolve. So we need to get our plays off here quickly. We activate our Crystron Hulk, but he activates another Maxi, and he is going to be drawing a few cards here, so it is what it is. But we've committed to the play. We can't back off now. So we summon out the TG Wonder Magician. Called by the Grave is going to negate our Ash Blossom, so that Foolish Burial will in fact resolve. However, now prior to him doing anything else, we're going to destroy our own Scythe. Scythe, when destroyed, will resummon itself to the field, and for the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot use their extra deck. Then we'll use TG Wonder Magician's effect to quick synchro on our opponent's turn into Baron de Fleur. So our opponent's completely locked out of their extra deck, and we now have an Omni Gate on the field. They are in fact playing the Adventure Engine, so we are in a little bit of trouble where everyone is sort of playing this. They go to activate Right. Right is the pivotal card of the deck, so if you can negate it, the deck falls apart, and there's not much then they can do. So he sets one and passes. Lucky for us, there's not much going on there. There's some really cool additional synergy here with Baron de Fleur that we'll get to in a second. Baron de Fleur popped the face down. Fortunately, the Burning Abyss monsters have a good bit of sort of recurrence and floating. So Graf is going to summon out Seer. Whenever Seer is destroyed, he's going to resummon the Graf. So we're going to summon out the Adhara, then we're going to grab an Enchantress and discard the Enchantress since it can be used in the graveyard, so it's still a good search. We're going to summon out Denglong, which I accidentally summoned in attack position, but it is what it is. So we can grab our Trap card. This gives us an Omni Negate during our opponent's turn. He's going to summon out the Graf to block our additional attack, but we're just going to take it out. Denglong is going to send a Vishuda to the graveyard to change its own level to 7. We're going to banish the Enchantress from the graveyard to grab another Right of Aramasir. And we pass. So what we're going to do here during the standby phase is use Baron de Fleur's effect to summon the Scythe from the graveyard, and your opponent is now locked out of their extra deck again. So they didn't realize we would be able to do that 2 turns in a row, completely locking them out of their extra deck. And it also means that our Baron de Fleur can be resummoned then on another turn, especially using the Denglong. So the Denglong and the Scythe on the following turn would have made us our Baron de Fleur if the Denglong was still around. But yeah, fantastic game, really strong deck. This shows that sort of safe combo, and what it does show is that you don't need, like, the accessibility of this combo is crazy. The Brave Engine, even just having Faithful Adventure by itself and being able to cycle into the rest of the cards, being able to force him to use his hand traps to stop it, because people are going to try to stop this combo. They will stop the Brave Engine. sort of blindly. They're not going to think twice about it. That's going to be their focus, which is fine. Even if they negate the Brave Engine, it's such a small thing that it just means your opponent now doesn't have those cards to use on your actual combos. So that's great showing for game number 1, really abusing that safe situation. Let's get into game number 2. Alright, getting into game number 2, and we're actually going second in this game in particular, so our opponent's going to open up with Rite of Aramasir. They're going into the Adventure Engine, activates Faithful Adventure from the deck, grabs the Dracoback after normal summoning the Sangan. You'll then discard the Dracoback to search for the Griffin Rider then. Griffin Rider is going to special summon itself out of the field. That gives him an Omni-Negate, and the Dracoback will equip itself onto the Adventure token. That's the full Adventure sort of combo. He's going to go into Almirage here. So Sangan's really strong in the current metagame. He grabs a Ash Blossom off of it. What you would normally do here is off of the Sangan, you would search for Crusadia Arborea. Arborea then can special summon itself inherently to any zone that the Link monster points to, so you don't need to activate its effect to special summon it. It's a perfect search target off of Sangan. Our opponent just already had it, so Sangan then can grab an Ash Blossom, which is also really strong. It's going to use those two to go into Crystron Haki Fibrax. That will summon out a Jet Synchron from the deck. These two then will go into Auroradon. Auroradon summons out his 3 tokens here, so Uno, Dos, and Tres. He's setting himself up for big plays. Tributes 2 to go for an O-Lion, and a token will go into TG Hyper Librarian, which I thought was a very interesting take. I would normally have summoned Denglong in that exact position, so he's going to discard a monster to go into the Jet Synchron, then go into Cupid Pitch. Cupid Pitch is going to increase its level or decrease its level by 1. And the TG Hyper Librarian, every time he synchro summons, he gets to draw an additional card. So he goes up to level 5, then using these two, he goes into the Borreload Savage Dragon. Cupid Pitch, TG Hyper Librarian, and the Borreload Savage Dragon all activate here and resolve in reverse order. So the Borreload Savage Dragon will equip the Auroradon from the graveyard, giving it 3 tokens, an additional 1050 attack. He gets to draw 1, and I take damage 100 per level of the summoned monster, so that's 800 in this case. He's going to search for Foxy Toon here. Foxy Toon is going to summon out a Madame. That's going to search for the Punk Trap card, which he's going to set to, and now he's going to go into Dragite. So this is an amazing board. So this is an Omni-Negate, the Adamancipator's Dispeller Trap card negate. He's also got this guy here, which will negate a monster. So this board is insane. Really big fan of whatever this guy is doing with the deck. Honestly, it's probably better than my version. But I do have something similar to this also coming out relatively soon. We go to use our Enchantress. I was expecting him to use the Borreload negate on it, so that would negate the activation, so we can use the other one in hand, but he straight Ash Blossoms it. Fair enough. We summon out our Ashuna, then we normal summon our second Enchantress. We realize there's no way in hell we're breaking that board. That was immaculate from our opponent. I wanted to include that. It wasn't even our gameplay we were interested in there. It was watching our opponent's gameplay. So his is a sort of like level 3 adventure turbo deck. We do have something like that coming out very soon. It may be a better way of abusing the Brave Engine than the version we're playing, but we'll see. There's so many different decks that can take such good advantage of this. It's difficult to say which one is going to be the best, so sure enough, we're just going to try them all and we'll see what happens. So on to game number 3. Alright, getting into game number 3, and we are going first here. We were actually playing Creation Resonator in this version because of Cupid Pitch can search for it. We have since cut it. Obviously, you've seen the deck list. We're going to special summon out our monsters here and go for Crystron and Needlefiber. We're going to get Ashed, which really hurts, to be honest. It really sort of stops us on our tracks here. We don't have very many plays past it, so instead of trying to extend into nothing, we're going to try for Fatal Adventure here, grab an Enchantress, send it to the graveyard just for some follow-up next turn. And we're going to leave it at that. We're just going to hope and pray we can survive. So it's not looking great. Again, the Adventure Engine itself does have its weaknesses. He's going to pop our Fateful Adventure, which isn't great for us, but whatever. He's going to activate Thunder Dragon in hand. We're going to preemptively max C here just to get some sort of advantage out of it. Now, Thunder Dragons are extremely dangerous because they're pretty good at going for one-turn kills. So we're going to have to wait and see how this turns out. Use Thunder Dragon to grab another one, uses Thunder Dragon again to grab another Thunder Dragon. He's filling up his graveyard here. He sets one, then tributes the matrix that he had set for his Colossus. Colossus sitting big at 2600 attack points. He had another matrix to hand because of his effect. He goes into his battle phase here, so that forces us to use our Needle Fiber. Luckily, Denglong is a big wall with a 2800 defense. So we summon it in defense just to block the attack from the Colossus. He cannot boost it using the Matrix because he's already used the Matrix to search, but he is able to extend here into a Thunder Dragon Fusion to summon out Titan. So he's still keen on going for game here. He activates the Thunder Dragon in hand to try and pop us. As soon as he goes for the Thunder Dragon's effect on the field, we use Effective Healer and negate it, so he's not going to be popping any of our cards here this turn. We're going to try and keep ourselves safe going into next turn. So at this stage, he just goes into, well, first he gets Thunder Dragon back to hand, then he's going to go into battle phase. Now remember, he did add a Matrix to his hand. We know 2 out of 3 cards there. One's a Thunder Dragon, one's a Matrix. When Denglong's sent to the graveyard, it'll grab the Chi Wen. Chi Wen adds an additional wall, prevents us from getting destroyed by the Colossus. We do misplay a little bit here coming up. It was only in retrospect that I realized it was a misplay, so we're going to use the Enchantress to grab the Rite of Aramasir. Aramasir is going to summon out a token and grab us another Fateful Adventure. In this version, we were playing 3, so it is what it is. We've since cut that down to 1. We realized our mistakes there. He's going to go for Thunder Dragon Matrix. We're going to use the Rose Shoot to chain block his Thunder Dragon Titan. He does not get to pop. We summon out our Rose Dragon, and we Synchro Summon into the Supreme Sovereign. So this is going to reduce all his monsters. Going to grab us the Rocks Rose Dragon, which doesn't really do anything. And that was the misplay right there. What we should have done is we should have swung into the Colossus. Colossus then would have used its effect to protect itself from battle destruction, and thus we would have been able to banish 2 cards in his field. Alternatively, it simply would have gotten rid of his Colossus. Either one would have benefited us more. In retrospect, that was the correct play, but what can you do? Hindsight is 2020. So we're going to go in here. We're still, again, the Ching Ying is a major problem for Thunder Dragons. He uses Thunder Dragon Fusion's secondary effect to grab a Hawk. Because he grabbed Hawk and not Roar, we know 3 of the cards in his hand. He should not have a Roar in hand. I highly doubt that's his last card. He uses Hawk to grab a Matrix. We banish his Colossus and his Titan. They are gone. He uses the Draco back. He then tributes them for the Thunder Dragon, realizes he has no plays whatsoever, and that's game. So that's an instance there of making sure you're keeping track of your opponent's hand, making sure you know as many of their cards as possible. There was only 2 cards in his hand that we didn't know. After he used the Hawk, there was only 1 card that we didn't know. The chances of that being a Roar was very slim, so we decided to take our chances and make sure he didn't have another Titan or something. Either way, paid off for us. You know, we came out on top there, which is fantastic. And yeah, we're gonna get into game number 4 then. Alright, getting into game number 4, we're going second here. Our opponent goes main phase 1 into Necros of whatever that says. So we're going up against Necros, which is really interesting. I haven't seen Necros in a long time, so he's gonna ritual summon here using the Kaleidoscope, which is going to send Herald of Arclight. Herald of Arclight will subsequently search for, again, whatever the hell this says. This guy is so cool, didn't realize he even existed. Necros Mirror then is going to be used to special summon him out to the field. He's really cool because he can tribute a monster to negate a monster activation. So that's really cool. He's going to go for Fateful Adventure, so even ritual decks are taking advantage of this card. This is going to be everywhere. Get used to seeing the Adventure Engine in virtually any deck. Especially ones that don't necessarily rely upon their normal summon. So this guy's board is insane. It doesn't look like much, but it is very strong. He grabs his Draco back as well. He's going to use Bryonic here, discard it to, I believe, search for, yep, the Decisive Armor. I'm not going to lie, I looked away and didn't see him add that, and that is going to come up in just a second. So what is his board actually doing? This guy contribute a monster to negate a monster's activation and banish the card that it negates. So that's big. And the Necros of Unicorn, anything special summoned from the extra deck is negated. So he's a floodgate for extra deck monsters. So we're really not looking great. We don't have a lot of options here. We're going to use Vishuda to special summon itself out of the field. He's going to tribute his adventure token to stop that from happening. He'll negate and banish our Vishuda. Vishuda is now gone. We're going to use Ashuna's effect here to special summon it out the field, normal summon the Rose Dragon. We're going to go into Baron de Fleur to try and swing over that Necros of Unicorn. That's why I specified earlier on in the game that I did not see him add Decisive Armor. I was not happy when I saw that happen. We attempt to negate out of spite. We know that we're negated. We can't do anything about it. But yeah, his unicorn gets boosted up by 1,000, bigger than our on the floor. There is literally nothing we can do at this stage to stop this guy from steamrolling us. We're going to hold out hope and see what can happen here. He's going to go for Fateful Adventure yet again to grab the Enchantress to discard, I'm assuming, the Enchantress, absolutely. Enchantress then will banish itself to grab the Right of Aramasir. Aramasir is going to grab him another Adventure token, and that's essentially, yeah, because he already has Fateful Adventure. Then he's going to use the Draco back. He's going to return to our hand the 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. He's going to swing into our Rockshrews Dragon, swing in here for 5,600 damage. It's not looking great. We do not have a lot of plays, I will be perfectly honest. We draw into the Chi Wen, and that sort of seals it for us. Yeah, another L. That's what I'm saying. Like, this engine is so adaptable and versatile that a whole load of decks that before now didn't have a lot of viability are now going to be able to abuse this to keep up with and compete with a lot of the meta. So while I'm saying yes, expect to see the Adventure Engine a lot, I'm not saying it's even necessarily a bad thing, because it is going to grant a viability to a lot of these weaker decks, and we're going to explore that in much more detail sort of down the line once we get over the initial power creep of it. But yeah, again, it is another rail. I don't usually like posting a lot of losses, but these guys were just playing decks that were way too cool for me to just leave unexplored. So whoever this is, props to you, my guy, for using Necros like that. Absolutely destroyed me. And yeah, let's get into the deck profile. We'll talk about this particular deck and what we can expect to see from it going forward. All right, so getting into the deck profile here. A lot of the deck is, again, you've seen it in the gameplay. It is relatively self-explanatory. The only new version, new parts of it is the Adventure Engine that I discussed at the beginning of the video. What exactly the end game of the deck is? The end game of the deck is extremely versatile, honestly. You can go into a whole load of things. I do really enjoy playing the Safe Lock in this particular version of it, although you don't need to. You can totally cut Safe and Dagda to focus on your synchro plays. But I am a fan of those guys in it. It adds just a layer of versatility to it if you don't draw into your tuners. It is what it is. Generally, it is sort of trying to spam out your monsters. You'll notice nothing really in the deck has an effect that will activate on normal summon. So that we're avoiding specifically effects that activate on normal summon. Rockshrews Dragon's effect activates, Red Rose Dragon effect activates when used as synchro material. Rockshrews can activate on normal summon, but usually you're special summoning it off of the Red Rose Dragon. So yeah, generally you're avoiding your normal summon. Again, with Taya, you're special summoning Taya off of Yazi during your combos. I don't have a combo to describe to you guys. Again, I dare say there is someone out there who has it worked out to a fine art. I don't yet. I have been working on it and I will continue to work on it, so expect to see this type of deck improve again and again as I sort of get more familiar with these cards myself. I'm learning this just the same as you guys are, so again, we're just going to have to take some time and learn it together, so we will. Now, when it comes to other things you need to look out for, the reason we're playing the hand traps the way we are, we're not playing 3 Max C, we're playing these in a fashion that will try to allow us to stop Floowandereeze. That seems to be one of the most powerful decks right now. It is definitely giving me the most problems, and it is so tedious to play against. But Effect Feeler, Infinite Impermanence, Ash Blossom all have really positive matchups against that particular deck going second. However, the biggest thing that deck is doing that's stopping us is they're playing a card called Dimension Shifter. Now this guy is pretty nuts. Here he is here. This guy is insane. He does completely stop this deck, so he does. He is very, very powerful. Basically, you discard it, and anything that would be sent to the graveyard is instead banished for 2 turns. That's incredible, honestly. So what you may want to do is, if you are worried about this card, and I myself am now more worried about this card than ever, I would potentially cut down some of the hand traps, play Dimension Shifter, and maybe some Crossout. Maybe something worth doing. Again, I don't have a Dimension Shifter, so I haven't done that yet, but this card is increasingly becoming a pain in my ass, so I would definitely recommend at least testing it. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. There's not very much more to describe. It takes really good advantage of Galaxy Tomahawk as well, spamming out loads of tokens, spamming out loads of summons, being able to go into a whole bunch of negates. But yeah, once I have it refined down to a better sort of fixed combo and I have a better idea of exactly how to fully take advantage of this engine, it has potential that I'm not tapping. Once I know how to fully take advantage of this, I'll absolutely have another improved version of this deck up and we'll take it from there. But until such a time, if you're enjoying what you're seeing and you want to go on that and help us sort of learn together, you can join the Discord and subscribe to the channel, just so you can keep on track of anything coming out in the near future. I would really appreciate it. That doesn't cost you anything and it really does help me out. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it for now, and I will see you all in the next one.